Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to my new video series called Get Prepped. Now these videos won't be the same old how to record vocals like the pros or how to mix drums like the pros. Everyone has a video about that. So these videos are going to be an examination of what I do before a session to prepare myself before the artist arrives. These videos are going to be a culmination of everything I learned as an assistant engineer to a number of engineers around New York City, as well as my time as a freelancer in multiple studios. So whether I'm here in my home studio or out in the real world at a professional recording studio, the steps I take to prepare myself are always the same. This way, I can ensure the fastest and best results for my clients. So you've been hired to record some vocals. Great! Now what? So the first thing that I like to do is to get the artist on the phone. I think it's always best that the first time you guys start communicating is not in a professional setting. Get comfortable speaking with each other. This is also a good time for you to get a sense of their voice and how they speak. This is normally a good indicator of how they'll perform in the studio. Next, I like to ask for copies of the demos. Most artists these days have a small recording studio set up at home where they like to work out their ideas. Even if they're just taking voice memos on their phone, listen to them. This way, you can become more familiar with the music ahead of time and start to plan your signal chains. Is this a rapper where you can use a little bit more compression on the way in? Is this an indie singer where you might need a little bit more delicate control? Do they like to sing and play their guitar at the same time? Because then you'll have to use two microphones and mic them a little bit more carefully. Listen to the demos and see what kind of effects they like to use while they record. Maybe you can improve on these or at least have them ready for when they enter the studio. I also like to get a copy of the instrumentals, the stems, the session, whatever we're going to be using to record in advance. This way, I can spend my time setting up tracking sessions before the artist arrives, especially if we're recording more than one song. You have to imagine that you are the artist. You've just met this engineer for the first time, you're in a brand new studio space, maybe it's your first time ever in a studio space, you're nervous, you're about to sing in front of a stranger for the first time, and now you have to sit and watch him spend 20 minutes in front of a Pro Tools session, setting things up. Nothing is more awkward for an artist than watching the back of an engineer's head while they set something up in Pro Tools. I use a vocal tracking template. This way, when an artist sends me files, all I have to do is import them to my tracking template, and I'm ready to go. All right, so the day has come, your session's already set up, you have your signal chain set up, time to kick back and relax until the artist shows up. The hour before the artist arrives is the most important to me as an engineer. I take this time to double check everything in my setup. You only get one chance to make a first impression. I put myself where the artist will be standing physically and make sure that I'm comfortable and that everything is working properly. Your microphone and your signal path should already be set up before the artist arrives. More importantly, your headphone system needs to be set up before the artist arrives. A good headphone mix can make or break an artist's performance in the vocal booth. So I put myself physically in the vocal booth. I put the headphones on. Am I hearing myself correctly? Am I getting a good level to tape? Am I clipping if I get too loud? I also like to take this time to set levels for my effect sends. I leave them bypassed so the artist can't hear them immediately, but in this way, when they say, "Hey, can I get a little bit of reverb?" all I have to do is unbypass the send instead of having to create an aux, find the right reverb plugin, bring up it's too much work. The more efficient we can be working with the artist and the faster we can get results, the more work we can get done and the happier the client is. At this point, I'm thinking, what else can I do to make sure that the artist is comfortable when they arrive? Will they need water? Grab a couple bottles, put them by the vocal booth. Do they write on their phone? Maybe get a music stand. Have it ready in the booth to hold it up so they can use their hands while they rap and they sing. Do they write with a pen and paper? Get a pen and a pad, leave it by the vocal booth. Are they bringing any friends along with them? In this case, you'll need a couple pairs of headphones lying in the back there ready to go so they can listen while the artist records. These might seem like small details now, but at the end of the day, it'll mean a lot to both you and the artist that you spent this much time in advance getting prepared. This also shows that you care about the artist's time. If you're an engineer that charges an hourly rate as opposed to a day rate, every minute that you're not spending recording is money wasted for your client. So in this way, you're communicating with your artist non-verbally. I care about your time, I care about your budget. I'm not gonna spend 5 minutes setting up a reverb send or grabbing you a cup of water. I've already taken care of those things. I'm here to work and I know your time is valuable. Okay, everything is set up. Microphone's working, headphones working, I got water, I got pens, I got pencils, I have a pad. Now it's time to relax until the artist gets here. The artist is here. Let's get right to work. Don't rush them right to the booth to start working. Take their coat, hang it up, don't just throw it on the chair back there. Offer them some water. How was their commute? Again, you've just met this person for the first time, they've never worked with you before, so the quicker you can build a rapport with them, the faster you can earn their trust as a person and as an engineer. That being said, if the artist wants to get right to work, then you get right to work. In that case, they don't want to talk about their commute, they don't want water, they're warmed up, they're ready to go. Good thing you just spent an hour and a half setting up so they can jump right in the booth. All right, yeah, go ahead and hop in the booth. I set up water and pencils and... They don't need to know all that. They don't care. They came here to record some music. If you prepared correctly, it'll almost seem like you're reading the artist's mind each time they need something.
Hey, do you have any water?
Oh yeah, there's a few bottles over there on the table. Help yourself.
Hey, I want to change this lyric real quick. Let me find a pen in my bag.
Oh yeah, just check the stand in there. There should be like a couple pens over there and a pad if you need it. So the artist is finally in the booth. You've chatted for a little bit, you're comfortable with each other, and we're ready to work. Now what? Check for phase. So many beginner engineers forget to check if their vocalist is in phase with their microphone. This will make a huge difference in terms of how full or thin the artist will sound. This is my voice out of phase with the microphone. This is my voice in phase with the microphone. That's the setting you want to keep. If your microphone pre doesn't have a phase flip option, try and move the microphone back a few inches. If that doesn't work, try it a few inches closer. Before we start recording, ask the artist if they have any preferences while they record. Do they like auto-tune? Do they like reverb? Do they like delay? Do they want the music louder a little bit so it's more fun and exciting in their headphones? Anything you can do to make them more comfortable while they record. All right, we did it. We're all set and ready to record. Here are some other things I like to think about before I start a session. Does my studio look inviting? Are my cable runs clear, or does it look like I booby-trapped my vocal booth? I like to tuck cable runs away, maybe underneath some carpet or behind some furniture, so that they're almost invisible to the artist. If any instruments are visible in my studio, which in my case they are, I like to make them available to record at a moment's notice. You never know when an artist might walk up to your guitar or step over to your piano, and all of a sudden they have a brand new idea. So having an extra track in your DAW and an extra microphone on a stand will never hurt. Besides, being the guy that caught that split-second moment of inspiration will make you the hero of any session. Be prepared for things to go wrong. Computers crash, cables stop passing signal. Don't freak out. Stay calm. The second that you show the artist that you've lost control of the situation, you've lost control of the session, and you've lost their trust. And that trust is very important in maintaining your relationship with artists. Do they want to work with somebody who, Pro Tools crashed and they're like, oh no, I don't know if I saved your last take, Pro Tools crashed. Or do they want the guy that says, oh, you know what, Pro Tools crashed, but I got your last take, don't worry about it. To safeguard against things like this, save as and save often. I'm constantly updating the session with detailed names. This way, if the computer crashes, I have a rough idea of what we were doing before the crash. Also, if your DAW allows for auto backups, have it back up as often as possible. Lastly, try and find out what the artist needs for when they leave your session. Do they work in a different DAW and they need stems? Do they need wet and dry stems? Do they need a session because they work in the same DAW? Do they have all your plugins? Because then you have to freeze it even though they have the same DAW. Or do they not really know anything about this kind of stuff and it's your job to educate them? It's good to know this kind of stuff before the session ends. This way you can plan for it and leave some room at the end of the day to wrap up their files. No artist should ever leave your studio without their files. The last thing you want is for them to hit you up in 6 months and say, hey, do you have that session where I kind of picked up that guitar in the middle of that one song and then it became a whole other song, and now you have to figure out what they're talking about, and it's 6 hard drives ago, so you have to go digging through your old files. I like to give my clients both wet and dry stems as well as a Pro Tools session. That way they have everything they need at the same time. All right, you're all set up. Artist is in the booth, everyone's comfortable, and you're ready to rock and roll. Have a good session, and I'll see you next time on Get Prepped.